You noble diggers, all stand up now.
Welcome, comrade. Never forget the forms.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to my channel. Today we will be talking about the treason of Canadian law schools. Here is my Juris Doctor to prove that I can say these things. It's from Western Law if you'd like to make a complaint. I've decided to do this video as a preemptive measure because I will no doubt, if I achieve any success along the project that I've laid out for this channel, I will no doubt be accused of treason by the more reactionary elements of His Majesty's Commonwealth. I deny these, obviously, of course. I say to you that the Parliament has the absolute right to apply for statehood, and that also it is my absolute right to advertise for this, and that if the Albertan separatists who are actually committing treason are allowed to advertise secession, which is treason, then it follows that the committing of the entire Commonwealth to the United States of America as applicants is definitely within the power of the Parliament. And the Parliament has plenary power, so it can do whatever it wants. And I am basically allowed to advertise whatever I want it to do in my free speech. But because I'm saying that I don't want Canada to be a country anymore, in fact, maybe not in my heart, but in fact, that I want the United States to be my country and that Ontario will just be my state from now on, that will give opportunities for reactionaries to call me treasonous. I reject it. What I'm going to do, though, is start saying all of society is treasonous. Every facet of power, institutional power, especially the liberal kind, is already treasonous. And so what sovereignty could I be betraying at this point would be my response. On the merits, at least, because as I said, that it just doesn't apply. But if I was to respond to an attack like that, I would say that the entire system of governance that I have been brought up in, I owe no loyalty to, even, because it's perfidious, it's a lie. It is a layered system of stupid people lying to each other. And to talk about that, I'm going to talk about some professors I had at law school today. I've decided no names, but if this series does well, we will do names. Just got to push me a little bit. The first prof I wanted to talk about was bankruptcy. I had a bankruptcy prof. I took 3 different bankruptcy courses. And so I know that this first prof's way of doing things is not standard. He sold his own textbook. He taught the course and sold his own textbook. And his own textbook costs like $400 or $500. So that's racketeering. That's extortion, right? It's conspiracy. And there's no one you can complain to at the university. I guess for good faith, I could say that maybe because Canadian law is such a super specific thing that it may require this, but as I said, I took 2 other bankruptcy courses, and he managed to do both those courses without a textbook, meaning with PDFs from the internet. And so, yes, racketeering, extortion, in a place of power and privilege, sedition, treason, rises to the level of treason because his ideology is American, and he is liberal, and he enforces that liberalism as though it were the law. He radiates the law as from his own person and grades who gets to say what the law is. And if someone says something too left, he says no, while he's extorting them for $500 a semester plus the tuition, which is exorbitant. Walmart. I had a professor who was counsel for Walmart, and she taught me employment law. The conspiracy between Western law and Walmart, right, to deprive the rights of the laborers. Walmart is flippantly seditious, is openly contemptuous of the rule of law. It lies bold-faced every day, and it relies on a captured judiciary to do so. And so having an employment law be taught by what is obvious, what prima facie can only be seen as contempt of law by the greater corporation of Walmart, to stop unionization, to violate the rights of contract and rights of law, constitutional rights of every worker for them. And they're going to let that person tell and grade us on what employment law is. That's sedition. That is conspiracy to deprive rights. But both of those pale in comparison to this last professor. But this last professor would have been protected until recently, in my opinion. In fact, most of these people would probably be protected technically until recently, but we live in a new world, right? Donald Trump threatened Canadian sovereignty openly. He threatened invasion. He threatened annexation. I have been completely unshackled by that event. I am allowed to accuse anyone of basically anything here in Canada now, because of the seditious, the treasonous conspiracy of ideology that has gone together, that has made Canada open to annexation by the Americans, is treason. It is a choice by the intelligence agencies, by the people in control. And so, before Donald Trump threatened that, sovereignty was already bullshit in Canada. It didn't exist, right? The general in command of the skies above Canada since the 50s has been an American. It hasn't been a Canadian once. It, by law, has to be a 4-star American general, and his deputy is a 3-star Canadian general. So our sovereignty's a joke. They let us have what they think we need to not be too uppity. But this last professor, in light of the threat by Donald Trump, right, saying that he's going to annex us, he taught this class called Theory and Practice. And the point of the class was that he was writing a paper on what the point of law school is. And I've told this story before, and I hate this man. I hate him deeply. He is a traitor, a seditious, stupid moron. I hope you guys push me to get his name out. He's a very public person. We can eviscerate him at length. We can read his papers if you'd want. But anyways, legal theory and practice, he wanted to write a paper that said that law school made citizens better. It made good citizens. And I told you I laughed in his face before.
You're not suggesting that many journalists get their copy spiked, as we say?
It's actually Orwell's essay called Literary Censorship in England, which was supposed to be the introduction to Animal Farm, in which he points out, look, I'm writing about a totalitarian society, but in free, democratic England, it's not all that different. I'm sure you're speaking for the majority of journalists who are trained, have it driven into their heads, that this is a crusading profession, adversarial, we stand up against power, a very self-serving view. On the other hand, in my opinion, I hate to make a value judgment, but the better journalists, and in fact the ones who are often regarded as the best journalists, have quite a different picture, and I think a very realistic one.
How can you know that I'm self-censoring? How can you know that journalists are self-censoring?
I'm sure you believe everything you're saying. But what I'm saying is if you believe something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting.
Right, when that class happened. But since that class has happened, it has elevated to a crime. Law school has put in all of these treasonous twerps, these moronic stupids, into positions of power, and said that there was freedom of speech the entire time, freedom of conscience, freedom of thought. And it's a lie. They have excluded the socialists, the communists, from any place of power. They've used extra constitutional powers to do it. They've had to go back and apologize for doing it. And that apology is something But there have been no reparations, and because there's been no reparations and there is no leftist institutional power in Canada, we are vulnerable to annexation and conquest by America. And that is because of the choices of law schools and the intelligence agencies that filter its upper crust. How can Beverly McLaughlin be our inscription in history of the first woman judiciary? She's a stupid, stupid person. Every professor that I met who clerked for Beverly McLaughlin, and I met 3, had some kind of mental disability. They were dumb people. I met one dumb professor in my time in a philosophy department of about 12, and I met 3 dumb professors in a law department of about 20, 25. It's double the rate, and it's in law, and that is obviously because that power keeps interfering and putting idealists and stupids in position of power that makes us more vulnerable, and brings me around to this whole point again: treason. Law school in Canada, and more importantly in the Commonwealth of His Majesty King Charles III, is treasonous. It gives power to people on the condition that they will submit to a foreign power, America. Treason. Thank you. Have a nice day. Hello, you've made it to the end of the video. Thank you. This channel has one mission: to prevent civilizational collapse associated with climate change, to prevent 100 million refugees by 2035, to stop 7 billion from starving to death by 2075. And we will do this through one main vehicle. We mean to unite the Anglosphere. We will do this by convincing the Commonwealth of His Majesty King Charles III to apply for statehood as one. And then with this new power, we will be able to negotiate in good faith with the rest of the world on how to tackle this crisis. Thank you and enjoy.